He had no dignity. That's what I was missing. There was no dignity. It just looked like a man desperate for attention. And whenever DeSantis was scoring points on him, he would interrupt over and over to try to talk over the points as just that's like a middle school debate tactic, which is pathetic and not effective.
In a special session to figure out how to sue Trump while LA is burning. And meanwhile, Gavin's going out there all the time being like, well, boy, it'd be really terrible if Trump, withheld disaster aid or heaven forbid, required that we, get our shit together. And then literally he's like, we're going to sue him for implementing the agenda he was elected on by a majority of the American people.
So it's just an MSNBC agenda. It's just a silly rich white liberal.
Gavin Newsom has spent years polishing his image like it's a campaign prop. But the moment Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson decide to go after him, that shine fades fast, like cheap paint cracking on a San Francisco sidewalk. His whole act, the slick hair, the practiced smile, the endless speeches that sound like they came from a glitchy TED Talk machine starts to fall apart. Kelly cuts with sharp precision, while Tucker piles on with biting sarcasm. Together, they don't just criticize him, they peel back the layers and leave him looking like a political mannequin in an Armani suit, standing tall but filled with nothing but hot air.
Newsom has decided to hire 2 young whippersnapper press people who look a lot like the Karine Jean-Pierre press pool, like the people she was using in her press office, who look like these, weird hats and strange haircuts and like the Rainbow Coalition. So he's hired 2 of those folks to write his tweets. And here's an example of where it's going. His entire tweet feed has turned into imitations of what might be a Trump tweet.
California announced it was going to ban all gas-powered vehicles, and a lot of people laugh because Gavin Newsom, who runs the state into the ground, is now a third world country, is a moron. Obviously, he just says whatever on the card. And of course, California doesn't have enough electricity to have electric cars. They can't keep the lights on. So how are they going to power the future of vehicles? Well,
Newsom is the perfect target for a roast because he works so hard to look untouchable. He walks into every interview, every podium, every staged photo op like he's California's gift to humanity. But it doesn't take long for Kelly to tear that image apart by pointing out the obvious. Behind the expensive suit and the Hollywood smile is a man who governs like an actor stumbling through a script he never rehearsed. His political brand isn't built on real results, it's built on camera angles and photo ops, as if the right lighting could somehow hide the decay spreading across California's streets.
Now, he's a far left progressive, and Bill Maher just came out in favor of him. But he's the most radical Democrat in America. Honestly, his politics may be left of the squads. He would be a hard no. I don't care how good his hairline is. They're going to...
Tucker Carlson comes in next with sarcasm sharp enough to peel chrome off a bumper. He points out that Newsom's entire political career is built on style over substance. It's like a never-ending audition for a national role no one ever cast him in. He talks in dramatic pauses and big sweeping gestures, like he's narrating a movie trailer, but the story never moves forward. Every problem on his watch, homelessness, crime, crumbling infrastructure, gets the same glossy speeches, while real solutions stay just as invisible as his results.
in addition to all the other problems that California has, housing prices there are higher than any place in the country. The median home price in the state of California is now more than $800,000. That's more than double the nationwide median. In recent years, because this really is a problem, leaders in California have passed dozens of bills they claim would fix the problem. Governor Jerry Brown, the last guy, signed 15 housing bills just in 2017. Last year, Gavin Newsom signed 18 separate housing.
The roast goes even deeper into Newsom's obsession with image. He tries to cast himself as a bold visionary, a forward-thinking leader of the future, but his leadership comes off more like a social media influencer. Every move is carefully staged for optics, perfect backdrops, dramatic sound bites, endless self-congratulation, while behind a curtain, it's chaos. Kelly doesn't hold back, tearing him apart for treating California like a movie set, complete with staged photo-ops that make him look like a savior while the state literally burns in the background.
Forgive me, but it looks like a nuclear bomb hit the region. Just a huge swath of one of our most beautiful cities is gone. So all these politicians are done. They don't appear to know it, but Mayor Bass, your career's over. You're probably going to be recalled and kicked out of office. There's a change.com petition with over 100,000 signatures. She's going. I don't know if she knows that. Gavin Newsom, same. You're effed. Stop telling us about the embers in your...
Tucker, of course, doesn't let the hypocrisy slide. He points out that Newsom loves to preach about progressive values, yet lives as if completely untouched by the consequences of his own policies. Cue the infamous French Laundry incident. Dinner all over again, the defining image of his career. While ordinary Californians were locked down, losing jobs, and told to make sacrifices, Newsom was dining maskless with lobbyists at one of the country's most exclusive restaurants. Tucker frames it perfectly. This is Newsom's entire style of governance. Restrictions for everyone else, luxury exceptions for himself.
They work? Not at all. They did not work for the people who live in California, but they weren't intended to work for people who want to buy houses. Instead, those bills had one purpose: destroying suburban homes and replacing them with high-density housing. Real estate developers make more money when single-family homes are leveled and replaced with apartment complexes, obviously. And real estate developers happen to be major donors to the Democratic Party of California, and in particular to Gavin.
Kelly sharpens the critique by tying Newsom's hypocrisy to a broader pattern of elitism. He talks endlessly about equity, yet his policies often squeeze the middle and working classes harder than ever, while California's wealthy elite sail through untouched. Newsom thrives on moral superiority, wagging his finger at other states and leaders, all while ignoring that his own state has become a cautionary tale of vanity posing as leadership. The roast then shifts to California itself, now the punchline of American decline under Newsom. Tucker rips into this delusion with relentless mockery, likening his leadership to a captain giving a motivational speech while his ship sinks. Kelly drives the point home, highlighting the absurdity of a governor who imposes some of the highest taxes in the nation while delivering one of the lowest qualities of life for the average Californian.
Mount Rushmore, thank you, -GCN, with an image of Newsom on Mount Rushmore. Then there's a poster image of Kid Rock pointing like Uncle Sam. It reads, "Kid Rock wants you to support Gavin Newsom." Captioned on X, "I accept -GCN. Kid Rock, by the way, replied, saying the only support Gavin Newsom will ever get out of me is from D's nuts.
And then there's the arrogance. Newsom's ambition isn't just obvious, it's radioactive. He doesn't just want to be governor, he wants to be president. Every move, every trip, every national TV appearance is staged like he's already on the campaign trail. Kelly can't help but laugh at the desperation, pointing out that he acts less like a sitting governor and more like a man rehearsing his acceptance speech in the mirror every night. Tucker jumps in, mocking Newsom's ambition as a fantasy that the rest of America actually wants California-style politics. Shiny, overworked, and suspiciously fake. He jokes that Newsom spends more time on his hair than on his policies. Kelly drives the point home, saying he seems more concerned with his reflection than with his constituents, as if every mirror he passes whispers presidential dreams into his ear.
So Charlie's correct. He's hurting himself with his liberal base by doing these interviews of people like Charlie and Steve and Michael Savage. It's because the thing about Gavin Newsom is he's not very good at pushing back. So he's not going in there and doing battle with the Charlies and the Bannons of the world. He's somewhat obsequious, to be honest.
But the sharpest blows land when Carlson exposes Newsom's complete inability to take responsibility. Whenever a crisis hits, whether it's the economy, climate change, Republicans, corporations, or the system itself, his first instinct is to point the finger at someone else. What he never does is admit that his own policies might actually be part of the problem. Tucker mocks this as Newsom's favorite trick, playing the perpetual victim and the self-proclaimed savior in the same sentence. Kelly drives the point home. A leader who never owns failure isn't a leader at all. He's just a salesman insisting the product works while everyone else can see it's broken. And then there are his endless lectures to other states. Californians are leaving in record numbers, yet Newsom keeps bragging about his so-called paradise. Tucker doubles down on the irony, comparing him to a captain boasting about steering a perfect ship while his passengers bail out faster than rats fleeing a sinking vessel.
George Marcus was one of Gavin Newsom's biggest donors in the recent recall elections. So this week, after surviving the recall, tragically, Gavin Newsom rewarded those real estate developers with the biggest, quote, housing bill ever. Newsom just signed a series of bills, most notably SB 9 and SB 10, that will abolish the suburbs.
The roast reaches a brutal climax by exposing how Newsom confuses confidence with competence. He walks onto every stage with the swagger of a man who thinks he's untouchable. But strip away the bravado, and all that's left is a weak record and a mountain of excuses. Kelly makes it clear, Newsom is a politician who mistakes charisma for leadership, forgetting that charm fades while real leadership demands results. Tucker, with his trademark smirk, tears apart what's left: his hair, his ego, his hypocrisy, his failed policies, scattered across the floor like props from a cheap movie set. The roast doesn't just humiliate him, it exposes the hollowness of his entire brand. He isn't the visionary leader he pretends to be. He's an actor trapped in the role of governor, praying the audience never notices that the script has already fallen apart.
Industry Association, which represents, quote, interests of builders and developers of housing and commercial projects. There are about to be quite a few new commercial projects in California's suburbs. As the New York Times put it, quote, SB 9 essentially ends single-family zoning. Property owners now have the state's approval to convert any single-family home in the state of California into a 4-unit apartment complex.
And that's the ultimate humiliation, because when the laughter dies down, the truth remains. Gavin Newsom's leadership is an illusion, his legacy a cautionary tale, and his ambitions little more than a punchline perfectly delivered by Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson. What makes the roast sting even more is Newsom's arrogance in underestimating his critics. He truly believes his polished delivery and carefully rehearsed sound bites can withstand real scrutiny. But Kelly and Carlson shred the act, revealing that behind the glossy veneer lies nothing but hollow gestures. It's like knocking on a grand, expensive door, only to find an empty room inside. The emptiness isn't subtle, it echoes with every word he speaks. Kelly tears into his endless appetite for self-congratulation, showing how he's perfected the art of praising himself for problems he hasn't solved, crises that have worsened, and initiatives that collapsed before they even began. She drives home that his press conferences sound less like serious leadership updates and more like self-help seminars, where he plays both the guru and the case study.
Gavin Newsom is doing right now with this podcast, because I've said I'm against conservatives going on his podcast because I think it's helping him train for 2028.
Yeah,
I don't think we should help him.
I agree completely. I didn't think that. Obviously I know Gavin Newsom. I text with him occasionally. I am from the state of California. I'm from originally San Francisco. And I have relatives who know him. And I've been friends with Gavin Newsom for a long time. I know his ex-wife. I have been bothering him for years. Like, you should come on my show. And he was kind of open to it. And then he whips around and he's like, no, you should come on mine. I was like, oh, I would love to, because I would love to debate him about what he's done to my state.
Tucker piles on by mocking the way Newsom constantly congratulates himself for progress that no one can actually see, joking that under his watch, success is always promised tomorrow but never delivered today. Then comes the money trail. California drains taxpayers with some of the highest taxes in the nation, yet the state can't keep its streets safe, its power grid reliable, or its housing market functional. The situation highlights the absurdity of squeezing residents harder every year while giving them less in return. Tucker makes it sting even more, pointing out that Newsom governs like a man who thinks budgets are just props for speeches, not real plans for people. The roast paints him as someone who treats taxpayer dollars like a bad gambler handles poker chips, carelessly, arrogantly, and always pretending he's winning. And of course, the hypocrisy runs deeper. Newsom loves to champion environmental responsibility on the national stage, lecturing other states and even countries. Yet California's own environmental record is riddled with rolling blackouts, water shortages, and dependence on energy imports. Kelly tears into the contradiction, ridiculing a man who poses as a climate crusader while failing to keep his own state's lights on. Tucker drives the point home with a brutal comparison. Newsom is like someone who buys an electric car for the photo op, but can't even find a working charger.
And then I watched a parade of people go on, some of whom are good friends of mine, by the way, conservatives go on his show. And I realized, and I'm not attacking them at all, I almost did, but then I realized, oh, wait a second,
this is like, this is not, the point of this is not to have a real conversation or to answer questions. The point of this is to rehabilitate. And I would say of Gavin, like, he's legit smart. I don't think there's anything at all at the core other than misery, another deeply, deeply unhappy person.
The roast doesn't let his record on crime slide either. California's major cities have seen spikes in theft, assaults, and outright lawlessness, with entire neighborhoods turning into open-air experiments in chaos. Yet Newsom prefers to lecture the nation about compassion and reform. Kelly cuts through the facade, reminding everyone that leadership isn't about poetic speeches, it's about keeping citizens safe. Tucker drives the point home with brutal sarcasm, joking that under Newsom's leadership, California might as well replace its welcome signs with disclaimers. Enter at your own risk. By now, the roast has stripped away every layer of his identity, his ambition, his vanity, his hypocrisy, and his incompetence. Nothing is left untouched. Kelly points out that Newsom doesn't just fail to govern, he fails to even recognize his failures. Too insulated and wrapped up in his own performance to notice that California has become a warning for the rest of the country. Tucker lands one final strike, mocking how Newsom still struts around as if the entire nation is clamoring for him to lead, when in reality most Americans see him as the political equivalent of a cautionary meme. And so Gavin Newsom, the man who once aimed to be the shining face of the future, walks away from this roast revealed for exactly what he is, a hollow politician, with slick hair, lofty speeches, and a record that reads more like a punchline than a legacy.